Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly show with Aditya. A half an hour show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in association with Dusra.net, the number one website. Hello and welcome to episode 114 on the 18th of September 2019. Welcome to part 1 of this episode. As if trolling KL Rahul wasn't enough, now we have turned our attention to Rishabh Pant. Why? Because he was publicly targeted by the captain and the coach in the form of if Rishabh Pant does not perform or if he is engaged in what we call in cricket rash shots, then he will get a rap on the knuckles. And the media has pounced on its chance to troll Rishabh Pant. Trolling, yes, he is being trolled. Not long ago was there another talented player like Rishabh Pant who found themselves in the same soup. Can we guess who this particular individual is? Who till 7 years ago was not able to perform as per his expectations we had from him, and therefore we did not want him to be a part of the team. Why? Because he was not adding value. And today, this same individual is not only the vice captain of the team, he is a valuable senior member, and we cannot think of this particular team without this player. Can you guess who this player is? It is none other than Rohit Sharma. Till 2012, Rohit Sharma was being given the moniker a player with immense talent but unable to perform at the highest level. And now Rishabh Pant finds himself in the same situation, a player of immense talent but not able to make runs in terms of 40s, 50s, 60s as and when required in the situation. Now I find this highly hypocritical and a sense of double standard practiced by the media. They are picking at Rishabh Pant because they know he can be replaced by two more talented wicket keepers in Ishan Kishan and Sanju Samson, who are his contemporaries. So yes, they are putting this psychological pressure on Rishabh Pant, and it's not only coming from the media side, it's coming from his own locker room. And when your coach and captain talk specifically about you, but not in a positive way, but a semi positive way, that he has all the talent and a game changing mold in him, but he needs to be more mature as to what shot he can play when. And while we can assume that the captain and the coach said this with good intentions, the media, as the Indian media is, has now picked up on this and are going to target Rishabh Pant at every point in time. So if in the second 20 over match today he comes in at 70 for 2 when both the openers have been dismissed, for example, and he joins his captain Virat Kohli at the crease, not only will he be scrutinized by the pseudo experts outside the media but by his own captain. So if he comes in at 70 for 2 and hits a 6 the first ball, or tries to hit a 6 the first ball, but the connection is not made properly and he is caught at long on, long off, or any of these positions, and if this is the first ball, then once again his place in the team will be questioned. But on the other hand, if he comes in at 70 for 2 after 7 or 8 overs or whenever possible, and he makes 40 of 25 balls, while his contemporaries, his coach, his captain will be pleased by his performances, but the media will still say, why did he not hit 60 of 10 balls? And that is how we try to break the career of an individual. We tried this with Rohit Sharma, but Rohit Sharma, remember, had MS Dhoni as his captain, and after Gautam Gambhir and Virender Sehwag were discarded, he allowed Rohit Sharma to open, and since that day, we have never looked back at Rohit Sharma. While a Sanju Samson and an Ishan Kishan are waiting eagerly to get their chances, and I want them to get their chances, but not at the expense of Rishabh Pant being dropped. I do not want this situation to happen where a Rishabh Pant becomes an MS Dhoni while Sanju Samson and Ishan Kishan find themselves living the same story as once upon a time a Dinesh Karthik and a Parthiv Patel lived. And today we do not want either of these two talented keepers whom we did not groom properly in the team. Remember, Karthik came in the team at the age of 19, just a month before Dhoni. Parthiv Patel was part of the team 2 years before Dhoni at the age of 17. And yes, while Dhoni performed up to his best level, the way we treated Karthik and Parthiv Patel, we cannot treat an Ishan Kishan and a Sanju Samson. So if we do not want this particular situation to repeat, then all we have to do is give those two individuals a chance, but the solution should be neither of their careers should go down the drain. If I was the selector, then I would select one of the two individuals as a part of the test team as the second wicket keeper. And if it means dropping a Ridhiman Saha, yes, I would drop a Ridhiman Saha. And why not? Because Ridhiman Saha is now almost 35 years old. And I have oft repeated that we cannot bring the question of age only to one individual. If Dhoni needs to go, then Saha needs to go as well. And I would put Sanju Samson in the team and then rotate the bowlers as needed along with the batters. And if we want Rishabh Pant to be a mature player, then we need to tell him that you are our ODI and test keeper, while we will give chances to a Sanju Samson and Ishan Kishan in the 20 over version without compromising on either of the three's career. And let me prophesize 10 years from now, when we look back and when Rishabh Pant becomes part of the senior setup, we are going to have the same attitude towards him as we are now having towards Rohit Sharma. He got his chances, now he is the best batsman in this particular format. We can also add the fact that what the coach and the captain did in their interview in public on national TV, particularly targeting Rishabh Pant, or when they were asked a question about this particular individual, instead of being specific or saying things like he will be wrapped on the knuckles, we could have given a more smarter answer. And Virat Kohli, whom we call the best player in the world, the best batter in the world, did not start making runs until 2012, after he was sure that he was going to be part of the team permanently. Because by that time, a Tendulkar, a Gambhir, a Sehwag had done their part and were slowly being let go. And once Kohli realized that yes, I am now a permanent member of the team, I will be given the respect that I deserve. And when he got the confidence, he started performing. We gave Kohli the trust and we asked him to come at number 3. Until that time, we did not have the same confidence in him. Yes, he was a successful under 19 captain. He was not exactly a shining star in the T20 domestic championship. Unlike Pant, who started shining through the T20 domestic championship, Kohli did not. And the hype surrounding him for the first 4 years of his career was subdued. And now, the last 7 years, well, we know what the hype around him is. Why are we going after Pant, or why are we saying that he is walking on a slim chance of being dropped anytime? Because if you remember, in the West Indies one day matches, he hit a sweep shot and it went in the air straight to the fielder. Now, such kind of shots, you can say it was a poor shot, but if the same shot had gone for a six and gone over the fielder's head, then you would have said, what a start. But unfortunately, as it happens in this sport, one shot can be called great because it goes for a 4 or a 6, and the same shot, if it goes into the hands of the fielder, or you are bowled or LBW, then it is called a poor shot selection. Not having the wherewithal when to hit that shot and when not to. It is similar to any other sport. When you hit a shot towards a goal in hockey or football, it can hit the post and ricochet away from the goal, and while the same shot, it can hit the post and deflect towards the goal. It can beat the keeper and into the goal. So yes, despite all your efforts, if the keeper is good, then they will be able to deflect any goal towards them. But if you can hoodwink the keeper, then the same goal which they defended in the last 5 seconds, they can let the ball go. In this sense, sports can give you a funny feeling. While being a sports person is about talent and hard work, it is also about instinct and a bit of luck. In hockey and football, if the goal is scored, then we are in high praise of the goal scorer and we are critical of the defender and the goalkeeper. But if it is the other way around, if a powerful shot towards the goal is deflected by the defenders and the goalkeepers, then we will say that the goal scorer did not have enough power in his shot and therefore the goalkeeper was able to deflect. And this is where our analysis of sports needs to be more empathetic, and we have to be restrained before we go on praising an individual or admonishing an individual. We have the same attitude when there is a run out option. When the fielder hits the stumps and the batsmen are found short, then we say the batters did not think or analyze the run before running, and therefore the fielder was able to hoodwink them, and before they reach the crease, the ball hit the stumps. But if the fielder hits towards the stumps and it bounces off the crease and it goes millimeters away from the stumps, then how do we analyze this? That the fielders are not good enough, they have to hit more regularly. This is where our analysis of the sport can be demeaning, and while we lionize one performance, we undervalue others. And this is where our hypocritical nature, paltry understanding of the sport comes out. I can give you one more example. Till the time PV Sindhu was a runner-up in her world championship matches, we kept on saying she hasn't done enough. She needs to do more. She has to go the extra mile. And once she was able to win the badminton world championships, we worshipped her like anything. The golden girl. She tried hard. She kept away from social media. She went and took advice from foreign coaches. She did training exercises. Wasn't she doing the same when she was coming up as the runner-up? She was trying hard, but her opponent had just 1 or 2% of luck more than her. We have heard this term numerous times before. Be happy with what you have. But when it comes to sport, even a silver medal is not acceptable. How? Then I think it's time to retrain all our journalists, especially in sports and in the matter of empathy. David Warner, KL Rahul. Who are these? These are individual cricket players from Australia and India, respectively, and they find themselves in the same boat. As to how? Warner, in the recently concluded Ashes tournament, did not make runs as is expected of a batter of his caliber. The same has been the case with KL Rahul. He hasn't made runs in the eyes of the selectors and the team management, but the attitude towards these two individuals cannot be more contrasting as one can see it. While we in India have gone on as far as to drop KL Rahul from a future tournament, and we have gone as far as to say that Rahul has a muddled mind. He is not able to have a separate compartment in his head as to divide formats. But on the other hand, what happens in the case of David Warner? In terms of talent making runs, both Warner and Rahul for me are at the same level. Yes, in the last 1 month, neither of them made runs as was expected from them, and a few individuals were unhappy with their performances. But the team management from Australia's side has said that in the future tournaments, David Warner will be in his team despite him not making runs. And I quote, Warner's going to be a lock. I don't care if he gets another duck in the second innings of the final match of the Ashes tournament. So, along with Steve Smith, David Warner, and Marnus Labuschagne are a lock. This has come from assistant coach and former captain Ricky Ponting, who himself was under pressure once upon a time when he did not make runs as expected. But on the other hand, the way we have talked about KL Rahul is not only demeaning but a deal breaker for a talented player like Rahul. And after this contrasting attitude, there is nothing more to say. Welcome to part 2 of this episode. As we do every Wednesday night, it's time to dwell into the world of WWE. Titles defended, titles lost. This is how we would sum up the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. While the individual titles were defended, that is, Kofi Kingston defended the WWE World Heavyweight title against Randy Orton. Seth Rollins defended his Universal Heavyweight title against Braun Strowman, and the women's title were also respectfully defended. It was the tag team championships which saw a change of hand. As I had told you last week, it was a unique situation where Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman were to not only defend their tag team title against Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode or Robert Roode, they were also to face each other in a universal title match. They could not defend their tag team title successfully and they lost it to a new pair. And Seth Rollins overcame another opponent in the form of Braun Strowman after he successfully defended his Universal title. The SmackDown Tag Team title also saw a change of hands. It was only the Women's Tag Team Championship which was successfully defended. Even the Intercontinental and the United States Championship respectfully were also retained by the reigning champion. We also saw Roman Reigns being engaged in another non-title match where he had to defend himself against Eric Rowan, and while he had the match in his hands for a major part of the match. This being a no disqualification match saw a 2-in-1 situation against Roman Reigns, and this led to his defeat. And it seems as if now they are looking at him to compete in a major championship match. Another interesting thing is that Brock Lesnar, after multiple attempts at securing the Universal Championship, has now turned his attention to the other championship, that is the WWE Championship, and now he will face Kofi Kingston to make sure that he gets the coveted title in his hands. This ends part 2 of tonight's episode. Stay tuned for part 3. Welcome to part 3 of this episode. What is modernism? This is one term along with millennials, skills, startup that is used frequently but without fully comprehending what these terms mean. In fact, one can say that skills, millennials and startups are a subset of what modernism is. Though for me is modernism not only an oxymoron, but it is a misnomer as well, because modernism is relative to the era we use it in. But we have come up with gems like modern day sports, modern day lifestyles. As we all know, technology for us is only AI or smartphones. So modernism only comes when we use artificial intelligence, when we use Internet of Things, or when we use the smartphones. So basically everything pre-2000 was ancient and vintage. One can say that artificial intelligence and smartphone is an oxymoron because they are contradictory to each other. An intelligent being cannot be artificial and an artificial phone cannot be smart. But using a smartphone and an artificial intelligence object is an indicator of being a modern individual. But if we try to decipher and deconstruct what is modernism, there is no single theory associated with it, because modernism is a complex and intricate webbed term. And to say that a certain era is a modern era, we need more than just smartphones and artificial intelligent objects to classify a certain era as modern. Let's take a trip back to 1969 when USA sent their first astronaut-based spacecraft to the moon, and without getting into the complexities of the procedure used to send the astronauts into space and eventually a landing on the moon, we can understand that with limited technology and computers which were 10 times in size but not as much as in the space they give us, sending the spacecraft to moon which had astronauts in it was an achievement. For 1969, it was modern. This kind of an achievement was modern and a technological marvel for that particular era. Mobile phones are not the only radio enabled devices or wireless devices that we use. What about radios that have been in vogue for the past 80 years? We presume that a certain era, that is the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the individuals living in this era were not materialistic, and the moment computers became sleeker and smaller, artificial intelligence came into being. Though I would classify even the radio as a form of artificial intelligence, we presume that the post 2000 era is materialistic. I do not agree with such a proposition. In fact, for me, humans have been materialistic from the time they came into being. Right from a pen, a watch, even the domesticating of animals was a form of materialism. In fact, this means that no era is modern and no era is vintage. So, what if in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the mid 2000s, there was no Twitter or no Facebook? So the way people exploit this medium for their own greed, because now they can use a platform to make a mountain out of a molehill for every issue, to start a superficial discussion for every banal issue, and we feel that such digital applications are now a means to talk about things which would have been impossible, let's say 15 years ago. Well, it doesn't make what was happening 15 years ago any ancient than what is happening now modern. We like this term modern day lifestyle so much that we cloud our judgment when it comes to understanding the word lifestyle, or when we come up with gems like work life balance, the millennials not wanting to have a 9 to 5 job attitude. That is difficult to decipher, because maybe the young generation of a certain era did not want a typical 9 to 5 office life, but as one progressed, things changed. Flexibility is not directly proportional to a modern day millennial or a modern day young individual. Every era is modern in its own understanding, and as we adapt to new technologies or new understandings, we try and change what has become stagnant. So if 30 years ago a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 5 job was in vogue, it doesn't mean that the young generation of that particular era did not want other option. We may have not known the term startup, let's say 30 years ago, but I would classify companies like Wipro, the Tatas, the Birlas, who came up in the early 19th century as startups. Even the MAGA, that is Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Amazon, I would classify them as startups. Maybe not today, but when they came up, it is a similar case with selfie. Selfie is nothing special as far as taking photographs are concerned. We just did not allot a term to it. Modernism is a state of one's mind, as is skills, millennials, and other such fancy terms. Climate change, pollution is not the result of a modern day lifestyle. It is the result of over 100 years of ignoring this perennial problem. If the spacecraft alone wasn't artificial intelligent, then what is artificial intelligence? We are being obtuse when it comes to labeling a certain era as ancient, modern, or vintage. So how do we conclude this? In 2019, a 20-year-old is more smarter than a 20-year-old, let's say in 99 or 2009. Well, this is a universal truth that every 20-year-old thinks they are smarter than the rest of the crowd, irrespective of which era were they born in and when they turned 20. It could be 1967, 1977, 1987, 1997, 2007, or 2017. And this is one universal truth that will not go away. But our obsession with youth and our perception that only youth, by which we mean 20 to 30-year-olds, can only take a certain country to new levels. This is insensitivity at its best. The odd even policy is back into focus once again, with the national capital suffering from bouts of pollution, which then takes away the tag of being a world class and a heritage city. To counter both pollution and getting the tag of a world class city, we come up with such policies. And one of them is odd even, which has risen from the ashes once again. This means that the public transport comes into focus. Now, what consists of public transport? We cannot only classify buses and metro as a public transport. Over the years, we have gone on to even add taxis as a form of public transport. For me, the terms like Ola, Uber, or cab aggregators or Kali Pili taxis, such terms are insignificant and redundant. A cab and a taxi is as much as a public transport as a bus or a metro. Now the question is, how will the administration respond? Will they include the cabs and the taxis as a form of public transport? Means we cannot impose the odd even rule on them, because for me they are in the same boat as buses and metros. And if we want to include cabs and taxis in the odd even policy, then why not do we include buses as well? They are eventually a form of public transport, but they are also road transport and they cause the same kind of traffic jam as any other vehicle. But if buses are not part of the odd even policy, means buses are exempt, then the same respect should go to these cabs and taxis, because individual will not always use buses for transportation. Individual will go to places where buses and metros do not penetrate. So while buses and metros are a useful form of transport, we have to understand that without taxis, the buses and the metros cannot take the burden and the pressure of handling such a huge crowd of commuters. Whether this policy will have a negative or a positive effect on the pollution levels, that interpretation will be difficult. If we do not include the cabs and taxis, without going into the semantics of cab aggregators or Kali Pili taxi, because their comparison at best is trivial when it comes to public transport, and if such cabs and taxis are not included as public transportation systems, and if we only limit the idea of transportation to buses and metros, then the pressure wielded on such systems may lead to chaos, because we cannot use buses and metro to go to every nook and corner of the city, nor are they available at every point in the city. A bus and a metro has designated stops. Beyond that, we have to use some other forms of transportation, and this will affect students going to college in a huge manner. So such classifications have to be done in a very debonair manner. This ends episode number 114. I will be back on Friday for more discussions. This is your host bidding you a good night. Please send your valuable suggestions through your comments and audio recording to the email ID adityatherewriter@gmail.com. You can also like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and Facebook page, and stay tuned for the next episode.